Yeah,
Vader.
exactly. Java
I was-
Darth Vader. It's the best
I was
one.
thinking the exact same thing.
Hi,
You think he
everybody.
wrote it to the left? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Exploding Dice Talks. I am your host, CJ, and joining me, as always, is my friend Nexus. Hi, Nexus.
I'm at least a co-host.
At least, maybe. I don't know. Some days you're like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, maybe I'm just alone. As always in my life.
He says whilst having a wife and 6 children.
I love how you increase the number every time you say it.
It's always a different number.
Yeah.
And the weird part is I know exactly how many kids he has.
I know.
I don't know their names at this point. I know Rowan and I know he has a daughter. Ronan and I know he has a daughter. The rest are in there somewhere.
And then we have some special guests this time around because we're supposed to be recording a game at this point, or playing a game at this point, but we're not. We have Gore. Hi, Gore.
Hi, name's Gore. I'm the guy that talks too much.
Of Loki. Hi, Loki.
Loki left.
Oh.
Wait, was Loki the one who left? Not
Yeah.
I? Good job.
Correct. He's still here.
Okay.
You know what? That's valid.
Yeah.
That is the most Loki move he could have done.
We have Ty. Hi, Ty.
Hello.
We have Vic. Hi, Vic.
Howdy.
And we have Rag. Hi, Rag.
Hi, I was gonna say howdy, but Vic took that.
Hi.
Hi.
Only one person is allowed to use each greeting.
Hola.
You ain't even texting.
You know, sometimes those numbers are very random. Yes. Loki's in the chat. Oh, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it, man.
Welcome.
Oh, boy. So, on this episode, we have some discussion points that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Andrew McNeil. We're going to talk about Cubicle 7, Marvel, Dark Souls, and Battletech a little bit. Let's start off at the top with Andrews McNeil shutting down their RPG division, canceling Into the Motherlands, but Zweihander remaining in the catalog.
It's honestly really sad. I was looking forward to Into the Motherlands because it was going to be like an Afro-futurist tabletop RPG, which is the most awesome combination of words I've heard together in the last at least 3 months.
That,
I have to concur.
that sounds like a Wakanda-based RPG.
Please don't. But no. So Afrofuturism is the idea of is the concept that essentially you could say divergent history, where if those areas generally considered Africa were allowed to go through their own technological things without being invaded and whatnot by the Europeans and other surrounding areas, war is war after all.
Mm-hmm.
That they would have had their own variations
The Asians
of
did their
technology.
good fair share too.
Oh no, let's not pretend that a war isn't war. But and we usually get some interesting things. Like you get your generic, or more like not generic, it's not common enough to be generic, but like your
Classic?
steampunk, your cyberpunk, yeah, classic's better. But you also get sometimes just like things like technology based off of materials that you don't really think about. I have seen different fantasy subgenres like jade punk, which is like everything is based off of magical jade because it's like an Asian RPG, and that sounds awesome. And I'm sure we would have found some other things than that.
I feel like with the weather, they're going to have some really cool solar punk.
Exactly. We also we have gotten some confirmation that Into the Motherlands is planning on still being continued. They're just looking for more backers. I mean, they did get their Kickstarter pushed through after all, so at this point they're just they've already gone through the majority of the phases. They had already finished their drafts for publishing, so we're going to see more of this in the future. It's just a matter of who's going to be the publisher.
Andrews McNeil is not going to be published.
What's right or wrong goes beyond. If you knew they didn't like.
At the moment, we know that they are going to continue publishing Zweihander, and we've also gotten confirmation that they're going to continue publishing Blackbirds. However long that lasts is up in the air at the moment. But at the very least, grab your starter set now.
Yeah, I have reached out to certain parties involved with the team, and no response has been given yet. So, as soon as some on the record information will be given to me, I will report it here on this very
Well,
show.
good morning.
But no
Were you
information has
watching
been
me
given
sleep
yet.
Again? Yes. Sorry about. Oh, you should just leave me. It's
Uh,
unnerving to wake up on your own
Why?
and find someone staring
Oh,
at
good.
you. Oh, I never meant to do
Why
that.
are
You
they
slept
shutting down the
for
RPG
1,000
division?
Your sleeping form is so heavenly. I get
Because
that.
the guy in charge of it left the
Oh, no,
company.
but I have a comfort. If I'm always there,
Essentially,
all I have to do
a
is
lot of their
no.
RPG division
Oh,
seems to
dear.
have been
Shocking.
tied to their connections with Daniel Fox, the creator of Zweiander, and with him having left the company a few months ago, it seems that they've just kind of been a bit lost at sea without a sail, maybe? We don't know
So-
too much information, don't take this as like information too hard, but that does seem to be what we've been able to gather.
So single point of failure.
That's what it seems to be, but again, like Nexus said, we don't really have any proof or point of contact with that.
Watch them hire a bunch of disgruntled WotC employees.
No, they're not doing an RPG division at all. If anything, we might see the next variations of Blackbirds, Flames of Freedom, Zweiander, what have you, maybe even into the Motherland, all join in with the Orc contingent.
Ooh.
And that's always going to be fun. And actually, speaking on the Orc contingent, we've gotten a bit more information about, what was it again? The Cubicle 7 RPG.
Yes.
You may Cubicle 7, which you may or may not know for being the people who make Warhammer Fantasy, also mentioned that they are going to be throwing their hat in the ring, making their own D20 based tabletop system. From what we've seen, or at least heard of, the initial ideas of it are going to be very interesting. Those of you who are fans of Blackbirds and similar, the age of the gods is over. We now must struggle to survive in this new calamitous world type RPGs. You will find something to love here.
Yeah, there's no information that we really have right now other than it's going to be based around, and Nexus is going to roll his eyes loudly, just listen for it. D&D 5e is going to be fully compatible with D&D 5e and standalone, so it'll be interesting how they handle that. We're going to be getting a lot of systems, seemingly at least 2 that I've heard of. Both this and Project Black Flag are going to be both standalone and compatible with D&D 5e.
My understanding is that Project Black Flag isn't really going to be a standalone thing so much as an expansion on D&D 5e, especially now that it's been released into the Creative Commons. And whoo boy, what a choice that was.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like an expansion book, like we're talking like an Exandria kind of thing.
Less like an Exandria type thing, because it's also going to include a bunch of new mechanics from what they've been saying.
Oh, so more like a Sanitars.
Yeah, a bit more in the direction of Xanathars, just longer. Presumably, it'll also come with a setting guide. So I'd call it more of a splat book than I would an expansion.
Oof, the age of the splat books begin. We all remember what that did to 5.
Yes, G&D 3.5. What wonderful memories we have of our overbloated game. That was both with and without sarcasm.
Shameful confession time. I've never played 3.5.
Have you played Pathfinder
The
1e?
landscape's gotten rockier.
Nope.
Okay.
Have you played Pokemon Tabletop?
Yes.
Well, then you're in the same
Fewer
ballpark.
villages as well. Makes this a good place to hide an emblem ring, I suppose.
It's that, but with a bit more traditional fantasy leanings and a shit ton more options and a goddamn metric
You're right.
landfills
Around.
more third-party content.
I should more options than being able to pick up out of something like
Except her.
what's now 1,000 Pokemon.
Yes,
Take a little
more than that.
around.
Jesus.
Wait.
what
When I
the
say
heck?
a metric landfill's worth of third-party content, that isn't an exaggeration.
I'd better help.
Like everything that I know about 3.5 comes from reading really dumb internet stories where somebody abuses its mechanics.
Yeah, that's kind of what 3.5 is like.
Yeah.
Hey there. What's the matter?
older versions of D&D, and honestly tabletops in general, tend to have a propensity for being very abusable because they went out of their way to cite out rules for literally everything. It's why you'll see in more recent generations of gaming, people are moving towards more narrative-focused RPGs, and we can talk about that in the future. Because when you don't give out explicit rules for everything, the rule lawyers have a lot less to nitpick about. Not that they won't do it either way, but
There was
Continue.
like 235
Did you
splat
wouldn't believe
books,
me?
and that's
I
not
believe
even counting
you.
all the magazines that
be an
were
emblem.
released that also
Please, go on.
incorporated rules.
What did it?
Oh my god.
remember the days of Dragon Magazine?
I didn't actually know about Dragon Magazine very recently when I found this YouTube series that was like
Yes, I am.
talking about
I'm
the
sorry, I
other
didn't
colors
leave
of
you sooner.
chromatic dragon
I'm
that
the
never got
divine-
included in the
now that we're
game
doing
and are
introductions,
only mentioned in Dragon Magazine.
Holy broccoli!
Yeah.
Uh, 430
I think I
Dragon
just had a heart
magazines
attack.
that were produced,
False alarm.
I'm
and
so sorry.
220 dungeons.
I never meant to impact your health.
Damn.
You Naka.
Several. So
How did you find
just
the ring?
So,
a massive amount of content.
so just between that and the Splat books, there's already more issues and sources than there are Pokemon. So yeah,
I'm right
damn.
Here. I'm by your foot.
D&D 3.5,
The performer.
we remember you fondly
I picked up the ring and she
Yeah.
said,
when we don't have
Sorry.
nightmares
"Meet
about
the
you.
divine dragon."
The parts that we remember, because there's too goddamn much.
She knew the way though.
My earliest experience with D&D at all was based off of D&D Modern, D20 Modern, which was in and of itself a kind of like expansion off of D&D 3.5, but for an urban fantasy setting, and I hated it. I hated it so much. D&D 3.5 was a bit better, but mind you, D20 Modern was something that was like a required reading if you were going to play Naruto D20, and to the point where they kind of just didn't bother explaining some rules because it was just read D20 Modern,
We'll help you.
which was part of why I didn't like D20 Modern.
Great news. She'll be so
Oh.
happy if you're the one who finds her.
I feel like I had a weird exposure. My first experience ever exposed to anything RPG or TTRPG or D&D was from finding the Dritz book series when I was like 13, not knowing that they were anything about D&D, and then reading 27 books in the series before I even knew what 5e was.
Hey man,
Like-
if it works.
I knew more about the Sword Coast than anybody in our campaign when I joined my first game ever, and I just found out what that was even a game like 2 weeks before.
That must have been really exciting.
It was so much fun.
Let's see. What was next on our little docket, CJ?
Next, we have Marvel pushing back their multiverse RPG, but adds an X-Men expansion.
Ooh.
Hmm.
I'm personally super excited about the multiverse RPG that of what I've been reading about, because of it being something new, it being Marvel, and it just not being a 5e clone. Personally.
I mean, is there an
Honestly-
IP that is most suitable for a bunch of nonsense campaigns happening than Multiverse Marvel?
Yes, it's called Mutant Masterminds. Anyway,
But I am for more superhero in the
tabletop space.
tabletop space.
As you know, CJ and I love our comic book games, our superhero, supervillain stories. We have tried almost every comic book RPG we could find.
We
How
really
long we've
have.
tried them is not really something we want to talk about, but
Yeah.
everything from Mutant Masterminds to what is it?
Sentinel Comics.
Sentinel City Comics. We've tried 3 different variations of Weaver Dice,
Damn.
This
and the list goes on.
This one's coming out in tentatively August 2nd, 2023 now.
Hmm.
So, you know, if you're
I'm
planning for
honestly
Christmas,
intrigued.
if you're planning for Christmas in the summer,
Or my birthday,
Yes,
which is literally 4 days from my birthday. Strangely enough, weird how that's the weekend of this little convention called Gen Con. Strange that.
wow, who would have guessed? Yeah, they're going to be. My understanding is, or assumption at least, is that they're going to be pushing that hard.
Oh yeah, I guarantee this is gonna be massive at Gen Con this year.
Interestingly enough, our last time at Gen Con, we were at the most recent one. There wasn't as much D&D content as you might think. I think that people have been expecting the wave to turn from D&D for some time, but there was a lot more indie games, smaller developments, publishers, and whatnot, than there were ones that were exclusively for 5e. We saw more content that was either original or Morkborg than we did for 5e at all.
Yeah,
Morkborg?
Morkborg.
Don't ask. Sorry.
It's
What is
it's a
Morkborg?
thing.
Edgy the tabletop RPG. No magic RPG. Thank you. Think Sword Art Online, but edgier somehow, and also a tabletop. And you're in the right direction.
I don't wanna.
And less rape.
Okay.
Listen, every season.
Season 2 of Sword Art Online was a
We don't
thing that
talk
I'd
about
rather
it.
forget. Yeah,
We just
yeah,
don't
exactly.
talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was supposed to come out in February. It was supposed to come out in this month, but it is now in August. So if anybody wants to give me that for my birthday, I wouldn't argue.
What day of August is Gen Con again?
It's the first weekend of August.
Oh.
Why, thinking of taking a trip to the U.S.?
A friend of mine is getting married in August, so I'm probably going to be in the US for a couple of weeks if I can. There's a chance I can make it to Gen Con.
Where?
If you can, it's very fun.
Hi.
Very great weekend.
Yeah, I need to see how stuff pans out with work and my passport.
Naturally.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Back on to news that is unfortunately 5e related.
Oh God.
The Dark Souls RPG, the American one, not the good one. Sorry, the English release one, not the good one. Has teased a new book called The Tome of Strange Beings.
Yeah, it's its first expansion, or it's its first source book outside of the actual first source book, and it looks to, and if anything, it looks to be a monster compendium. And the only reason why anybody's guessing that is because it's the Tome of Strange Being, and it has the Dancer Boreal Valley on it. So.
Oh, new ways to TPK.
Right.
I still want to play a game of this strictly because of it being Dark Souls RPG. Even though it is based around fluffed up 5e.
I mean, it sounds fun, but it also sounds like you would probably focus way too much on the weapon stats.
No, it's
Welcome to
actually
Dark-
more so based around stamina and which is called positioning in this. And also rebirth if half the party dies.
Oh, so if half the party dies, to just basically wake up at a bonfire.
Correct.
So we've got a bit more information about Project Black Flag. Just dropped, actually.
Oh, breaking news.
Is that a thing?
More confirmation about the fact that it is going to be 5e compatible. So, Project Black Flag, basically D&D 5.5. They don't have to pay Wizards of the Coast shit. But we also have got confirmation that they're going to be coming to practically every virtual tabletop.
Nice.
They continue saying that stay tuned for playtest material coming sometime this month. I believe they said something like the 17th, but that could just be me making a number out of nowhere.
They said very late February, so.
We know that they have also confirmed that the core rulebook is going to be at least 400 pages, and they're going to be adding a few new mechanics, like talents, which should be certainly interesting for those who are playing it.
That makes it a bit more interesting to me. I'm not against playing D&D compatible things, as long as it is more interesting than just D&D.
It has to have its own identity. If it's going to be piggybacking the mechanics, then its identity needs to be strong enough to carry it.
Exactly.
The biggest issue with D&D is that D&D was a solved problem, basically. Once you've played 5e long enough, you kind of already know what all the best options are. And it's not even like they were continually releasing new stuff. It's just that it was either stuff that just became the top of the tier and everyone just did that, or it was just unused. Or they made worthless stuff like Astral Elves, which are literally just Shatterkai.
I was so pissed off when they just took the one unique thing about Astral Elves, and then for 5.5, they just made it a thing all elves can do.
No, all elves have been able to do that from the start.
No, the
skill
one
thing, right?
skill.
Yeah, no, that's the thing elves could do anyway.
Not before.
Yeah, no. In 5e, most elves have been able to do that in the first place. Hell, even the teleport thing was something that elves have been able to do for years.
Oh yeah, no, the teleport thing is just a thing that Shatterkai and Eladrin get.
No, I'm talking about before that. Before that, there used to be a feat called Phase Step that you'd have to take to do it, be a teleporting elf. But once they released Shatterkai and Eladrin, they got it for free, and they got new, interesting ways to use it. And Astral Elf just has Phase Step.
Yeah, that's a thing I never really liked about WotC's methodology for quote-unquote balancing the game. Instead of like modifying stuff, they would just release a new race, a new sub-race or subclass that buffs an existing race or subclass back into playability.
You do not understand it, how disappointed I was in WotC when the latest adventure came out, their whole Dragonlance thing came out, and they had essentially neutered the backgrounds and feats they had to come up with, the Knights of Solamnia and the I was so disappointed when they neutered the Knights of Solamnia and just made it like a bonus action use thing instead of giving basically anyone the ability to have what are they called again? Anyone the ability to have maneuvers. That would have been something that would have actually bridged the gap between marshals and casters, and they chose not to do it because their understanding of balancing isn't to add new stuff to weaker people; it's to take things away. It take things away from strong people.
If everybody's nerfed, nobody is.
It's the difference between equality and equity. They don't want equity where everyone stands at the equivalent area. They want equality where everyone is near enough to each other that it looks the same. But if one person has 40 and another person has 20 and you take 30 away from both, that's equality. Equity is making it so that they're both at 50. But we don't want to sit here and talk about D&D all day. We have so many more interesting tabletops to talk about.
There are RPGs other than D&D?
Oh, so many.
Next up and final news topic that we have to talk about is we have a new BattleTech sourcebook coming, Dominions Divided. Speaking of games that Nexus doesn't like running.
Listen, my point for BattleTech is the same as my point for anything that isn't any Cyberpunk game that isn't Shadowrun. I don't want to play a watered down version of the thing that's right there. The problem with Shadowrun is, of course, no one wants to play the actual Shadowrun because no one understands it. Myself, I love Shadowrun, but I love Shadowrun's lore and its world, and actually the character creation process in Shadowrun, at least 5th edition, is my favorite of any tabletop RPG. But I will also easily and openly be out there and saying, yeah, no, the game is kind of weird. It's kind of out there when it comes to what to do. That being said, there is nothing more cathartic than being like, I'm going to do this skill test, and then dropping 30 fucking dice directly in your Game Master's eyes, your Game Master's face, while staring them in the eyes. And nothing more realistic than looking down and seeing that you only got 2 hits anyway.
That's true.
What's the most dice that you've ever rolled in one go?
45.
Jesus Christ.
My record's 64. My record's 64. I assassin, sneak attack, create a whole bunch of magic items. We didn't know how to play the game. It got weird.
I thought you were talking specifically about Shadowrun.
Oh, I never played Shadowrun.
It's a very fun system. And I don't want to say this to the wider tabletop audience, but like almost all cyberpunk systems basically share the same lore with a few notable exceptions. Shadowrun's just the one that says, okay, but why aren't there dragons?
Right, aren't dragons in Shadowrun like this super scary mega corporal overlords that just like
Not all of them.
rule nations?
Not all of them, just the ones who thought it'd be funny.
That's so
God.
accurate.
Like, you gotta understand, Shadowrun's lore is basically, what if in 2001, when Y2K was supposed to happen and it didn't, instead of like nothing happening, some jackasses did some kind of magic ritual which set off all of the volcanoes in the world and caused magic to reemerge. And also, sucks to be you. I hope you didn't think puberty wasn't bad enough already, because now you've just grown 5 feet tall, five extra feet tall and have tusks.
Okay, that is so much cooler than That is so much cooler than Cyberpunk's one day the internet stopped.
Oh no, that also happens. Because again, almost all cyberpunk stories have the same plot, or have the same basic backstory. I'm not saying that there aren't nuances between them, but I am saying that like you can mostly flip and switch them around.
So BattleTech.
BattleTech is actually also published by the same person who does Shadowrun, and the core system is basically the same. But it's a bit more. As a person who isn't a huge BattleTech fan, I don't feel that I have the right to talk about what its plot is.
Mm.
So CJ, you're on deck.
So BattleTech is from the same company of that does Shadowrun, but it's kind of like Shadowrun but with giant mechs.
So Shadowrun Lancer?
Kind of.
Yes, except unlike in Lancer, being outside of your mech, you can still be relevant.
Yeah. You can have gun.
And gun work?
And
gun work good.
Not to say that it doesn't in Lancer, it's just if you're not in your mech, you're doing something wrong.
You're either doing something wrong or you're doing something extremely right in a
Just so.
Okay, so Shadowrun but mech.
Yes.
Mind you, you can have a powered suit in Shadowrun.
Hmm.
But it's a lot more mech and a lot less magic. It's
Which
like,
makes
what
Nexus
is
sad.
Gundam except no space? It does make Nexus sad. I don't play tabletop RPGs to be the fucking to be the schmuck with a sword. I play tabletop RPGs to be the schmuck with a sword and fireball.
Dude, if I ever run anything, it's going to be a die campaign, and I'm going to force you to be an emotion knight.
You can certainly try.
You'll specifically be a disgust emotion knight. You'll just talk about the RPGs you don't like.
Why would you want me to? Why would you want me to spend X amount of hours talking about D&D 5e, or even more, talking about the differences between systems and what's the other word that I've been using? Frameworks.
Frameworks.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, let's not get
Oh
into
god. Somebody just mentions GURPS and suddenly shoot to emotion level.
But yeah, nothing against frameworks. I think frameworks have their own place in tabletops, especially for being the first spark for new ideas. But I also don't want to play them. I don't want to be the person who has to go out of my way to make everything when I'm also already making the world.
Yeah.
It's like I don't play The Sims so that I can also have to design each and every model.
Yeah.
That's exactly why my sister plays The Sims.
And that
good
works
thing
for
that-
some people.
Well, now you know that I'm not your sister. See, everything works out in the end.
You know, it's a good thing that you're saying it now because I wasn't sure.
To be fair, yeah, I did wonder as well.
Yeah.
Your sister or his sister?
Yes.
Nexus is everybody's sister.
Ah. But beyond that, we still see that more and more RPG systems, more and more creators are joining the Orc Initiative. One of these days, we'll actually see the Orc license, and perhaps we'll be able to dissect it to the same granular, obsessive level we did with all of the OGL releases. But we have yet to actually see it.
It'll be an interesting
getting
day.
that in February as well.
Oh, nice. That'd be fun to do. Like, dissecting the OGL was fun because of how awful it was. Orc, I think, is just going to be like refreshing good news.
Mm-hmm. More importantly, I'm looking forward to comparing, contrasting it with the same Creative Commons that we already have. Because having an Orc license is all well and good, but if it's not anything new or anything that actually gives us more, then what's the value to it? Which is likely the reason why it's taking so long to actually produce, because it's got to be something that means something. Because it has to mean something.
Yeah. Agreed. I think with that, then we are done with our news for the week. Is there anything that you guys would like to talk about?
I know it wasn't in the themes, but it was. I did mention it. I just finished my first die campaign ever.
Nice.
This system is so much fun if you're a queen. If you are just like the drama kid that wants to have really tense scenes with a group you really know well, it is some of the most fun I've ever had. RP-wise, probably the best game I've ever played.
Actually, that's another topic. I was talking about the new preponderance of narrative-focused RPGs, and Die the RPG is probably at the top of narrative-focused RPGs for me. And this is because a lot of narrative-focused RPGs, with the exception of some notable ones like Chronicles of Darkness, Scion, and like I said, Die the RPG, shout out to Kieran, what they end up doing is having a lot of systems essentially not included. They tend to be as minimalist as possible, which has its advantages and its disadvantages. The advantages of them tend to be the fact that, well, if there aren't that many rules, then you can kind of tweak and do whatever you want as long as it quote-unquote makes sense. But the disadvantage is that, well, when there aren't any rules, it becomes harder to have a guideline on what is and isn't possible. A lot of these systems also tend to have a bit of a lackluster. They just tend to have systems where the game master exists more as a mouthpiece than they are as an actual player. They have no agency. This is why a lot of people who say that they dislike frameworks like Powered by the Apocalypse and games based off of them tend to not have fun, because they are essentially there as a narrative machine. And when it comes down to it, if their only purpose is just to kind of talk at you, then there's not really much difference between them or an AI. And we already have ChatGPT.
We do.
Die the RPG is fantastic at this because whilst its system is to a point minimalist, it also does have some complexity to it. There is depth to Die the RPG. But more importantly, Die the RPG goes out of its way to make the game master a character. You want to have some kind of if you want to have that kind of agency that the players do, you can do that. You can literally show up as the master, appear in front of them, change the world, and then fuck right off.
It does carry, in my opinion, the risk of resulting in a sort of the NPC kind of scenario, but I feel like Die itself in the PDF has a lot of warnings and guidelines on how to avoid that issue.
See, the problem is that having a DMPC isn't an issue. Because again, the dungeon master, your game master rather, is a player. Many games don't treat them as one. You have to realize that if a dungeon master or game master rather doesn't have an opportunity to do anything besides talk at you, then there becomes a lot of times where in these games they'll become even hostile. This is the same thing that has all of these like hostile or toxic game masters, because if the only point in time where they get to do anything is during combat, then they're gonna want to win the combat. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily something that is impossible to fix, but I am saying that it would be good if more systems in the future came up with ways to avoid making it so that your game master has nothing to do. Systems like Pathfinder do it by just having a shit ton of tables and an answer to every question. So you're always looking, you're always finding, you're always searching.
I feel like Die manages to avoid that issue, even if you don't have the game master playing a heavily involved master in the game. Because a lot of the point of Die is that your characters, they're not good people. They're not people that are in good places mentally, and the master gets to really abuse that to put it bluntly, emotionally toward your characters. Like, there's a reason the game comes with so many warnings about veils, lines, and like people being able to just nope out of a conversation or situation because it gets emotionally intense.
Just so, like I said, I place Die at the top of a lot of narrative-focused games. With the only ones I like more are Chronicles of Darkness games, but they also have like a 2-decade-long history.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Die develops further.
I'm actually thoroughly enjoying the whole concept of Die as is, especially the different character archetypes.
It's so fun. Like nearly every class in Die has a way of just immediately solving the situation, but there's always a cost, and the cost adds so much to the story.
I just like the fact that I'm encouraged to be an idiot.
Well, yeah, you're kind of a fool.
Haha.
I have to thank you guys for introducing me to that. I just actually pre-ordered.
It is.
It's a great decision.
So good.
I am quite pleased with the whole mechanic of it, and I can't wait to further explore it.
Even though we actually got a press copy of the book, I actually went out of my way to buy a copy of the book just to support them. Die is also based off of a actual comic book. If you have the opportunity to read it, it is excellent.
It really is. I've been binging it all day. I'm almost done already.
But I think that's where we're going to end off for the day.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for being a part of this with us.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. Greatly appreciated. This was a lot of fun. Much better than Nexus and I just shooting at each other, and yeah.
Our usual time for doing this is Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern. If any of you happen to be free around then and want to go for another round, we'll try to shoot for that next week.
Yes, sir. And thank you all on Twitch for listening to us ramble on as well for the hour that we did. It's been a joy as always. I'm actually thoroughly enjoying doing these. I miss podcasting. As much as I'm enjoying just streaming tabletopping, I miss podcasting.
There's nothing quite like just talking.
Exactly.
It's hanging out with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And you can follow us live by going over to twitch.tv/geekio show and just putting a copper piece right on that love button and getting notified when we go live. And we go live pretty much every weekday, Tuesday to Friday. And then you can also hang out with us over on Discord at geek-io.net/Discord. I do want to point everybody over to Elements of Conflict, which is our Naruto-flavored TTRPG from our very own Pro GM Nexus.
Still here.
Yeah.
Woo!
It's Powered by Zweihander, and is a highly tactical, lethal, fast-paced game where you can break down your character to a granular level and make them feel truly your own. You have them rise through the ranks of the ninja world. The game is currently in playtest, and we would love to have every fan creative mind that we can get to make this game not only a game that we can be proud of, but also have it be the next great TTRPG. Check it out. Check out the playtest Discord at geek-io.net/EOC. From all of us to you, we will see you later on tonight with said Chronicles of Darkness. Talk to you later. Bye, y'all.